Thank you. Welcome to everyone, and happy to have you again with us in this regulatory update meeting. I hope all the information that we gathered and analyzed will be of your interest and will open a new perspective, new markets, and new interest, and you'll learn a lot with us. So this is our RegTalk for April, and we start. So today we will be presenting regulatory update, of course, regarding medical devices and IVD in eight countries: in Oman, Kazakhstan, Nigeria, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Botswana, Australia, and Brazil. So from different continents. So our first country today is Oman, and the update is an overview of the medical device registration regulation. We'll see. As you may all know, especially those familiar with the medical device regulation in Oman, until recently registration was not required. And the system relied on a simpler procedure known as listing, which only involves submitting basic information both for regarding the device and the party that is placing the device on the market. However, this situation has changed now, and the full registration of the devices is currently mandatory for all medical devices across all risk class. So today, I won't go into the specific technical requirement or detailed steps of the process of registration, but the objective of this presentation will be to give you a clear overview of how the system works as of today, and to introduce the official guidance document that are available on the official, the website of the authority. So as I said, all these documents that I will be presenting are available now through the Ministry of Health official website and cover everything from classification and grouping to reporting obligation and any transitional measure. We'll go over them. Here we have a list of the official guidance documents that are available through the Ministry of Health official website, and each one corresponds to specific regulatory requirements. We'll review briefly their purpose and scope. So let's start with the first one, known as GD1. GD1 provides the framework for submitting medical device listing information in Oman. As I just mentioned, listing was the initial and only process used to bring medical devices to the market. It was designed to keep a record of what devices are available and involving only basic information like the manufacturer name, contact detail, device code, intended use, and so on. It did not require any technical documentation or clinical study or labeling review. And now, with the implementation of the full medical device registration, listing is no longer sufficient. It is applicable, but no longer sufficient on its own. It has become like a part of the registration process, which vary in complexity depending on the risk class of the device, of course. So, however, the information that was previously required under the listing and which is detailed in this guideline, the GD1, is still mandatory. The difference is that it is now ended within the registration application and not to be submitted as a separate process. This is the first document that we have. The second document would be the GD3, and it covers the dossier requirements for registering moderate to high-risk medical device. It emphasizes the importance of accurate classification and structured submission, and includes elements necessary for the registration process, like labeling, device grouping, post-market surveillance, and clinical evidence. And details like regarding the application that must be submitted through the online portal, and the fees depending on the device risk classification. So it's a very important document that become, even if the date you can see it was issued 2021, but was not applicable until recently, not enforced. The GD5 parallels GD3, but applies to IVD. So it is also for high risk IVD that mentioned that require full documentation, while a moderate high risk are exempt of course, from certain section. All these are details on the guideline, and the classification must be very consistent with the device intended use, risk level, all the details that we are familiar with in other jurisdictions. So applicant must justify the chosen risk classification through a supporting document, including labeling, product claim, and technical file, etc. So we know now that we have a listing guidance, we have guidance for medical device and IVD for moderate and high risk. Other document is GD7, and it is the simplified registration process for low risk IVD. So here we have the low risk for IVD, and it is a faster approval. The required dossier include basic information about the manufacturer, the product, the labeling, the declaration of conformity, etc. And another document is the GD9, similar to GD7 for low risk, but for medical devices. So it required minimal dossier section. It's a easier process than, of course, for moderate and high risk devices. So we have everything. We have the GD14 for the criteria for grouping and bundling, more additional information for grouping, bundling, medical device. And we have the GD15 for reporting adverse events. So all manufacturer, users, and authorized agents are required to report incidents within defined framework to support effective safety monitoring and market surveillance. All these details are included in the GD15. And the last available document focus on requirement related to proper storage, highlights its importance in maintaining the integrity and performance of the devices, the storage facility that must comply with specific structural and environmental and safety standard, including, for example, pest control, temperature monitoring, anything like, for example, presence of emergency exits, etc. So that was an overview of the regulation for medical devices in Oman. Maybe someone would be interested, someone would learn that, or would act taking into account this new change in the regulation. Our second country today is Kazakhstan, and the update is related to the operational document. So the National Center for Expertise of Medicine and Medical Devices, known as NCEMD in Kazakhstan, has published a notice informing stakeholders of upcoming new requirements. This requirement would be like require basically operational documents, which include IFU and manuals for medical devices to be published in the State Register of Medicine and Medical Devices of Kazakhstan, to be publicly available. This ensure to ensure a kind of transparency and facilitate public access to key documentation of devices which are already present in the market. And in that way, it would be in line with the Eurasian Economic Commission Council Decision 46 of 2016 in order to harmonize all the registration process. So comply with this new requirement, manufacturer or their authorized representative must send formal consent to both the NCEMD and the Ministry of Health of Kazakhstan. And this consent is is for the public placement of the operational document in the website. And importantly, the consent can be provided in any form. A simple email or signed statement is acceptable. It only applies to devices that have already been registered under Kazakhstan national procedure, not under the EAEU, mutual recognition or any other pathway, only under the national procedure. However, okay, I just wanted to share this information, but what happened is that I would like to note that since this was published on the government agency website, there have been no further updates. It's like they have published it is effective, but it is not now in process. So it appears like the implementation of the operational documentation is on hold, kind of on hold. But I think stakeholders should remain vigilant, as it is important to stay informed about this development. Can become effective at any moment. Should wait for another notice. Moving to our third country, Nigeria. Switching from to Africa. Nigeria, we will update about the adoption of IMDRF standards for medical devices. So the Nigerian regulatory agency, NAFDAC, is now aligning its regulatory framework with internationally recognized guidelines from the IMDRF. And this includes the structure and content of labeling and instruction of use, IFU, and the standardized markets authorization. The standardized market authorization table for both medical devices and IVD. So next, and based on the analysis of this update, I will highlight some aspects that we found need to be taken into consideration because they publish it and it is now clearly written in this new regulation. So there is no misinterpretation of the regulation. Now it is clear and it's mandatory to follow that. That's why, we did a gap analysis of this regulation, and here I will present this analysis. So the NAFDAC require comprehensive labeling. Now, they insist on the labeling now for all medical devices. So labels must include essential product identifier, usage instruction, storage requirement, and if space is limited on the packaging, a separate IFU must accompany the device. And the IFU must be clear and informative. So for IVD, this includes the intended use, the diagnostic context, the collection method, the analytical and clinical performance, and for reagents, the material provided or needed and storage stability must be described. Any interfering substances or confirmatory testing requirements should be disclosed. So anyone which is familiar with the IMDRF standard will understand all these requirements. This is just a harmonization with that for Nigeria. And we're still talking about IVD, so there are additional detail needed around the in-use stability reference material used and traceability of calibrators. Also, in the IFU, they should explain the results, interpretation, expected value in population, and any factor that impact the results. So another point, we talked about the impact on the labeling. Another point is regarding the software as medical device. So the software as medical device has been categorized, and now the category is determined by both the importance of the software, role in the healthcare decision, and the severity of the health condition that is being addressed. So category 4 would apply to software that inform critical decision for life-threatening conditions, and the lower category is for non-serious condition with limited health risk. So software as medical device is used in multiple contexts, should be like if it is used like for several conditions, it should be classified as the highest one that applies. And any update to the software as medical device during its life cycle may also require a re-evaluation of its category. I think that's all for Nigeria, yes, and we switch to Russia. In Russia, there are two updates that we would like to discuss today. A new requirement regarding manufacturer power of attorney and the mandatory marking of medical gloves. Let's start with the first one. So, as part of the implementation of the new government resolution 1684, which governed the state registration of medical device in Russia, so the Russian authority has issued a clarification emphasizing the updated requirement for the manufacturer power of attorney, as we said. So these new rules took effect 2 months ago on February of this year and are critical for all applicants who wish to register their medical devices or renew their registration. So according to the published clarification, the power of attorney must now include specific elements to be considered valid. These include a statement confirming the representation of the manufacturer's interest, explicit assumption of responsibility for product circulation and conformity assessment within the Russian Federation, authorization to certify document on behalf of the manufacturer, the TIN OGRN, which corresponds to tax and registration number of the authorized representative, and the preparation date, validity period, and identity of the signatory, whose authority must also be documented. So this should be respected, and the power of attorney. And this is effective starting March 1st, already started, of this year. So this mandatory, we are switching to a medical glove, which is, we said for the power of attorney, it was effective since February 2025. It's February 26th of this year. Now we switch to the second update, mandatory remarking of medical glove. This one is effective, started from March 1st, 2025. So this mandatory labeling of medical gloves comes into force in Russia, as set on the government resolution 894. It was published on 2023, but starts to be effective this year. So this requirement applies to all key types of medical gloves, including examination gloves, surgical gloves, and gloves made of latex or nitrile. What happened? Manufacturer and distributor now must register their medical gloves in the Russian Chestney-Snack system. And in addition, a special two-dimensional registering this product, the medical gloves in this system. And in addition to that, they have to, there is a special code, two-dimensional code 2D code that must be applied to each consumer unit of the packaging. And this labeling enabled end-to-end supply chain traceability. This is for traceability. So we should have timelines for that. And this is coming in this slide. So this in order to support the industry in this transition and allow the sales of medical devices that are already in the market without 2D code. So it is there is a transitional period until August 31st of this year. And starting from September 1st of this year, only gloves that are properly labeled in accordance with this requirement will be legally permitted to be circulated in Russia. So soon. In Saudi Arabia, the update is regarding the new SFDA ISO 13458 guidance. And so the authority has issued this guidance known as MDS G024. This is basically to align with the ISO 13485 of 2016 quality management system with the SFDA medical device sector in Saudi Arabia. So this applies to everyone, to manufacturer, to authorized representative, to importers. We'll see. So it offers a structured clarification on how ISO 13485 is interpreted within Saudi regulation. And its purpose is to help company to build compliant QMS system to prepare for inspection and audit by the SFDA and to understand the documentation, risk management, and product realization requirement. So what this adaptational guidance bring more than what we already know on the ISO 13485. A unique strength of this guidance is an in-depth, close-by-close mapping of the ISO 13485 against the corresponding SFDA requirement. So, for example, it's clarify how ISO clauses on documentation, design control, or complaint handling translates under KSA law. It also defines critical terms, many of which are aligned with IMDRF. So this is basically to avoid regulatory misinterpretation by localizing a globally terminology to the Saudi market. And this guidance came into effect on March last month. And all stakeholders should conduct a gap analysis of their current QMS against the clarified expectation of this guidance to comply with. We come back again to Africa. So in Botswana, the updates are related to the extension of registration deadline. We talked about that in several times in our previous meeting. And there is once again an extension of this deadline for registration. Maybe the last one, because there was a lot of extension of that requirement. But we will present an additional update regarding the permits and medical device permits, several types of permits in Botswana. So the Botswana Medicine Regulatory Authority, known as BOMRA, has issued a public notice dated March 19, 2025 regarding updated deadline for the registration of medical devices, including IVD. This specific registration deadline, we can see here the dates as for Class C and D must be registered by June 30 of 2026, next year. Class B devices enter registration from 1st of April of the next year, and Class A devices from October 1st of 2026. However, for this last one, the Class B and Class A, a voluntary registration is allowed and is starting October 1st of this year, 2025. So this was about the new timeline, the new extension. So basically we have next for the reported to the next year, 1 year more. And as I said, the Class A and B could be voluntarily registered for manufacturers who wish to be adapted previously, so they can start on October of this year. The second update in Botswana is related to the medical device permits. So as of April this month, like a few days ago, 22 of April 2025, the authority officially commenced the requirement for permit related to medical devices. When we say permit, it includes import, export, and also transit. So all application must be submitted through the BUMRA Regulatory Information Management System, which we call BRIMS, which it is a website platform developed to automate this procedure. So now stakeholders can submit the following transaction directly via BRIMS. Import-export permits for registered, listed, and exempted medical devices, and transit permits for devices passing through Botswana. Exemption permit must also be requested via BRIMS. So yeah, it's cover basically all type of product and for all this type of transaction, import, export, and transit. Switching to Australia, we will review some updates about the so weighted UDI. So there is like two very comprehensive guideline that was published last month in the TGA website, and I found them very interesting and very comprehensive, and would like to share this information with you. The first one is titled Complying with the Unique Device Identification Requirement for Medical Device. And it serves as detailed guidance for sponsors and manufacturers to comply with the UDI requirements for and under the Australian regulation, and it explains all device classification, UDI component application, all the data. There are a lot of documents that was previously published, but this one is very comprehensive. So all the data submission to the house UD and labeling, and it's also outline roles and obligation of the involved party. Basically, manufacturer must allocate and apply both the UDI, DI, and UDI PI and ensure compliance with labeling and packaging. Sponsor must verify and submit the UDI to the house UDID, and third party, sorry, fresh Moroccan tea. Sponsor must verify and submit the UDI to house UDID. And the third party must assist but do not replace the legal responsibility, of course, of the manufacturer and the sponsor. So if you wish to have an idea, an overview of all these requirements regarding UDID in Australia, have to consult this new document. So only certain, as you may know, only certain classes are mandated to comply with UDI, while other might do so like voluntarily. Exemption include very low risk of or custom devices. However, applying UDI is encouraged for the exempted one. And a second document have a similar name, but this is for the time frame. So complying with UDI time frame for medical devices, also published at the same time. We'll see the timeline for the applicability of UDI in Australia. So there is a phased timeline to allow industry again to adapt. High-risk devices are prioritized, with low devices given additional time, low-risk devices, sorry, and submission of UDI data must occur within 30 days of supply. So here we have class 3, 2B by July 2026, class 2A by July 1st, 2027, class 1S and IVD class 4-3 by July 2028, and IVD class 2-1 by July 1st, 2029. Again, here we have talked several occasions about UDI in Australia. There was a the process was on hold, but now we have this, and I believe this timeline will be respected, and the process is active. And we end up in our last country today, Latin America, just to visit all the continent in this meeting. No, but this was not the purpose. The purpose is to highlight the most important regulatory updates. It just by coincidence that this month we address several continents. So the last country is Brazil, and here we will present a slight adjustment to the new IVD regulation that was recently published by Anvisa. We have already talked about in detail about this IVD in our previous meeting. If you wish, we can visit our YouTube channel. Previous RegTalk from last year and this year and available. So Anvisa, the regulatory authority in Brazil, published a notice on last month, on March 2025, where it informed stakeholders about the regulatory adjustment impacting the IVD. The notice specifically clarifies the regulatory status of products previously classified as equipment cleaning solution. Equipment cleaning solution. Like cleaning solution for the IVD equipment. So under the new regulation, which is in effect since June of last year, Anvisa has clarified that cleaning solution used exclusively for IVD equipment maintenance are no longer notifiable products. These items may now be freely marketed without prior authorization, as they are considered low health risk. And that's it. That's all for today. Open the floor. We have 5 minutes more, and we can open the floor for any question related to this updates, of course. Let me just see who is asking. Ana Lucia. Yes,
Hello,
Ana
Iman.
Lucia, please go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I
You're
have a
welcome.
question about the update in Russia. because you mentioned some new requirements for the power of attorney, and I wanted to know if the previously
Yes.
issued power of attorneys are still valid, or they need to be renewed, or what's the status?
So yeah, the previous power of attorney are no longer valid, and anyone who wish to register newly their product or also renew the license, they should issue a new power of attorney that is accordingly reflects all these new requirements.
Okay, but the update
Otherwise,
should be done at the time of the renewal. It's not necessary to submit now.
no. No, and they just mentioned for the new registration and renewal, not to present it as a modification or something like that. No, at the
Okay,
time of renewal.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Gabriela.
Hi,
Hello.
morning everyone, and thank you, ma'am, for the presentation. I have two questions. One is about Oman, and I wanted to know what kind of local presence the foreign manufacturer need to consider. Is it an authorized representative that represents the foreign manufacturer, or a license holder that acts more autonomously and ultimately owns these new licenses that need to be obtained?
I believe in Oman, the situation haven't changed, and is this the responsibility of the importer? The importer is is the only one who could be the authorized representative. This is the case in many Gulf countries, and it's the case in Oman.
Okay.
Yep.
And the other question is about the ISO 13485 in Saudi Arabia. Is it applicable to foreign manufacturers as well, or only to Saudi companies like Saudi manufacturers or authorized representatives?
It is applicable. The adapted one, this guidance MDSG 024, which emphasize in some aspects, but it is an adaptation of the ISO, is directly applicable to local manufacturer, importers, and especially authorized representative that would be audited. Uh, And what about the foreign manufacturer? One of the responsibility of the authorized representative is to ensure the compliance of the foreign manufacturer to the known ISO 13485.
I see.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
that's clear. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Yeah, I think, okay. If you don't have any other question, I would like to thank all of you for attending our meeting today, and hope to see you all in our next meeting for next month by the end of May, with more news, more updates, and more analysis. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Iman.
Bye.
Thank you, Iman.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.